Good morning, everyone. Good to be here with you. My name is Lindsay Hower. I'm a relatively new member of the church, it feels like, even though I've been here 2 years. But I joined about 2 years ago when we baptized my son, Chase. And I'd like to share a little bit about my story about how I came to Westminster and how I believe it's changed my life for the better. So I started looking for a church when I was pregnant with Chase. And not because I was terribly religious, since I hadn't set foot in one in over a decade at that time, but because church was a connection to my mother. She grew up at a Presbyterian church in Ridgewood, New Jersey, in the 1940s and 50s. And her mother was involved in the choir, and she was one of the few parishioners tapped to play the piano, as my mother was during my childhood. And so she raised me and my brother at Old First Presbyterian Church in Huntington, New York. And we went to Sunday school, we participated in the Christmas play, we were confirmed in 9th grade. We were the kids of the mom who knew how to play every Christmas carol on the piano by heart. So the Presbyterian Church has been a cornerstone to my life, and I didn't even realize it until I was in search of a church community 4 years ago as an expectant mother. So when I was pregnant with Chase on my church hunt in Marin County, my mother was elderly and living on the East Coast, where I'm from originally. She was thrilled about Chase's arrival, even though she and I both knew she would have limited time with him. Chase was born in September 2019, and my mother became ill with pneumonia about 6 months later, which also happened to be the start of the pandemic. Having a newborn, as well as an elderly, sick parent far away during a pandemic was pretty daunting. Her pneumonia turned into septic shock, which later led to the discovery of lymphoma, all over the course of 6 weeks. I traveled to Boston, fully masked with gloves and sanitizer, hoping this would be enough to keep everyone safe, both my newborn and my mother, at a time when we knew so little about the coronavirus. And I was able to spend the last 2 weeks of her life with her at home under the banner of hospice. My first Mother's Day was her last living on earth. And I spent that Mother's Day keeping her company and flipping through the pocket-sized New Testament that I found in her dresser. I read all the pages where she had the corners turned down or sections highlighted in yellow, figuring these signals flagged some kind of importance or meaning to her in those pages. I also organized several Zoom conference calls with her friends, my friends, our extended family, so that they could say goodbye. I spoke to her minister at the Fredericksburg Presbyterian Church, which was her most recent and final church community. His name was Alan Fisher, and we spoke a few times, including once when I had him on speakerphone talking to her directly. The phone was right next to her ear since she was unable to talk at that point, though I like to think she received comfort from his familiar and ministerial voice. And likewise, I recruited the hospice chaplain who was on call the night before she died, and her kindness and warmth and delicate care of my mother, a total stranger to her, was all enabled through a common language that her religion provided. In those final days, I witnessed the power of prayer, community, and connection, and I can remember my mother's minister saying to me, "Lindsay, you're at the thinning now. You're at the thinning when life and death are closest to one another. You'll be okay." In the weeks and months that followed, I returned to California to my baby. And to my partner, and to the arduous process of overseeing my dad's care while being a new mother and starting this grief journey. Excuse me. Thankfully, after trying on a few other church communities, the kids, the playground, the pride flag outside, the breadth of community programming all brought me home to Westminster. I know now that the Presbyterian Church will be a fundamental way that my mother influences Chase. Instead of celebrating his birthdays or spoiling him with ice cream, my mom will be present in his life by showing up here at Westminster. And so here we are. We baptized Chase with Bethany and Rob in October 2021. Some of you may have been there and remembered that. We often sit in the back row or the quiet room. We sit in that corner. I'm sorry, in the past. He's not the quietest parishioner. But we joined the summer retreat on Mount Tam over this past summer. We contribute to various volunteer activities whenever we can, particularly at the holidays. And I've been on the stewardship committee for 2 years. And so I'll close my remarks today with a sincere invitation and in asking you to contribute to this community, this church, this place that shows up reliably when so many things change, and especially in recent years with the pandemic. When children arrive and grandparents go, when loved ones get sick, and when life turns upside down. Westminster is a beautiful constant, worthy of our stewardship and investment. So thank you for giving that some thought. Thank you for looking for your stewardship packet outside on your way out. And thank you for making it a gift this year end to support this church. Thank you.
Amen.